What's up everyone, Dave here, Stances Everything, and we are back without camera difficulties. My GoPro is back working, which means we have wide angle and I can show you everything that I've been doing on the truck. So we are in real time now. That means it is mid-November here in Ontario, mid-November 2023, in case you watch this video at some different time. But anyway, we are back and we are going to get back into filming sort of more consistently and a little bit more fluidly. Things have been winding down right now. You know, race season's over. Hockey season has started for my son and myself, actually, but I can manage that. I am back to Tuesday to Saturdays at work, which means I have Mondays kind of to fill with whatever I want, be it editing, filming, all that stuff. So I have been cranking away on the truck, so let's take a look at the list and see where we're at. So the list is looking pretty good now. Things that happened while you guys were gone or while I wasn't filming stuff. Painted the drive shaft cross member, painted the e-stop bracket, and then I also, where is it? Somewhere, I put on my bed. So I can't find it on here right now, but I might as well just turn and show you that my bed is now on the truck. If you recall, this bed was really crooked, so you can see that I've got some center lines marked and a couple of things going on just to try and keep it straight. So I do have, the bed's gonna come off at some point, or partially off at least, for me to paint these mounts that I've built. I also have the same thing going on in the rear. Obviously that looks terrible, so I am going to be redoing the rear mount, just not at this time because it's sturdy enough right now for me to keep on rocking. And a couple things that I want to do is make sure that I've got some wheels that I can run for at least the first season, and I want to kind of pull the truck out and make sure that everything is lined up good. It looks okay in here from where I'm standing. Looks like the bed's pretty level. I am going to have to adjust my running board. It needs to scooch back a little bit. That might actually be a bit of a pain, just because of the mounts and stuff that I made. But I think, you know what? I think I can make it work, or make something work. I mean, I'm going to anyway, because if you recall, there's a mount here, there's a mount in the middle there, and there's a mount right there. This mount and that mount can move pretty easily. That one is actually under the cab mount. So instead of moving my mounts around, I think I'm just going to figure out a way to modify the running board just to scooch it back a little bit. But before I do that, I honestly need to make sure my wheels will work. So you probably won't believe this, but this is actually pretty much aired up. And that tire rubs everywhere. It's actually pretty brutal. So the reason that this rubs is this rear end in my truck is from an 88 Trans Am. It's about 2 inches wider than what most people run in the back of these trucks, because a lot of people like the wheels on these sunken in, probably because you don't have a lot of space to fit. Complicating this, I have also chose to run reverse Astro Surpremes in the rear, or at least one of my wheels are going to be reverse Astro Surpremes. The other wheels that I have are Detroit steel wheels. I did fit one of those on without the tires. Tires are up here. I might have an issue with the size of these tires. Yeah, we'll get there. But they do fit under the fenders. But you can see that with the reverse wheels, they kick out quite a bit. Like, look at how far from the bedside they are. And then how sort of in line with the running board they are. That's where my issue lies. So I do want to try and fix that. I have a couple of ideas how I'm going to fix that. Those ideas we will get to later in the video. For now, my plan is actually to take these wheels off just for a little bit. I'm going to put one of those wheels on, and then I want to air the truck down just so we can take a look at it and make sure that everything hits the ground as expected with a wheel that's a little bit more conservative. So, all that being said, we're going to cut back to one of those wheels under this fender, and then we're going to lay it down, and hopefully it looks good, everything clears, and then we can look into fitting the Astros. I got a couple of ideas there on how I'm going to do that, but you're just going to have to wait until a little bit further in the video. Anyway, let's get after it. I'll be right back with one of those wheels on the truck. Okay, as you saw from the clip, we got the truck to air out for the very first time in its most completed state it's ever been. And let's just take a look. So we are tucking massive amounts of that 15. it's not tuck and lug, but it's pretty damn close. And as I said, these ones are way less aggressive than the other ones as far as offset goes. So if you look from the side here, they're pretty tucked in. I could roll like that all day. Didn't distort the fender. Everything was cool. So I know that I can roll the truck out on these wheels with the fenders on if I wanted to. However, I really, really like those Astros, and I want to see how much work it would take to get those under the fender. I know that, again, with this rear end being the width that it is, and those wheels being the way that they are, let me show you actually what those wheels look like so you kind of know what I mean. I keep saying reverse Astro Surpremes, and I'm not sure if everybody kind of knows what I mean by that. So I'm going to show you my Astros, and you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So this is a 7-inch ride, 15x7 Astro Surpreme reverse wheel. So if I put it up like this, you can see that it's got quite a bit of dish to it. A lot of dish for a 7-inch wide rim. That is because there's pretty much no backspacing on this. This is about as close to zero offset as you can kind of get in the muscle car world. So for my tuner guys, you know what zero offset means. For the muscle car guys, zero offset is pretty much reverse. It means that there's not a lot of backspacing or positive offset to the wheel, which means that it sticks out, and it is what gives you this amount of dish. If you look at the ones in the front there, they don't have nearly as much dish, even though they are the same width. However, obviously that pushes the wheel out from the center line of the truck, with the axle that I have in the back of this being 2 inches wider than what most people run. I will post the sizes of everything in the description. It just makes fitting things a little bit tough. I have already rolled the inner lip of this, so this is pinched right flat as can be, and these wheels still did not fit. So obviously I want to see if I can fit those wheels, and that's just any clearance, any additional clearance that I get is just going to help me fit any other wheels that I try and put on this truck. So what I'm going to attempt to do, it's going to be a little bit hokey. I don't really want to narrow this axle. I don't want to pull my truck apart. I don't want to cut it. I don't want to paint it. I don't want to take my brakes off. Narrowing this axle is just a lot that would really go into that. However, and this is crazy, I know, I have actually less reservations about widening this fender. The design of this fender is pretty simple. It's actually really flat through here. So to widen it, you would kind of just cut like a 1/2 inch away from where it mounts, and then wherever you want on here, and then just put a strip in the middle. It will kick this out a little bit, but if you look, this is already slightly past this anyway. However, I have seen these widened, and I think 2 inches is kind of the breaking point where it starts to look a little bit goofy, especially from the back. And considering these are only 7-inch wide wheels, I don't want it to be too wide that it looks really funky from the back, but I do want to see if I can fit them. So my idea is actually to make some 2-inch spacers to go between the bolt. So it'll go between the bedside and the fender, push it out, put the Astros on, and see if it clears. If it clears, we're good. If it doesn't clear, I got to rethink this. Maybe I don't run these right away. Maybe I just run the Detroit steel wheels or even these wheels for a little bit while I think about what to do with my rear end. If I was going to mess with this rear end more, truthfully, I'd probably get a Ford 8.8 or maybe even a Chevy S10 rear end, because this rear end, there's a whole bunch of goofiness to it that it's a GM 9-bolt. You've seen me talk about this rear end a bunch of times. It's really weird. So GM, for whatever reason, for that year, made the rear ends in Australia. That means getting parts is strange. I have a whole nother rear end just for parts. I had another housing, which honestly, I had another housing. I could have got that cut. But anyway, I do actually have, I could get my other rear end actually narrowed while this one is in the truck, and then maybe swap it over later. You know, things to think about. But really, that's all money and time and expense and things I can't. Trying to focus on things I can do so I can save a few bucks and save that towards things I can't do, like the exhaust and the tune, and really get this thing on the road next year. And honestly, I really think that I could widen this fender, considering I made that damn bedside. I did that corner. I did that cowl thing. I've done a lot of metal work on this truck. You know, it takes me a while. I get kind of overkill with the bodywork portion of it, but I can definitely do it. I did the firewall. I've done a lot of that And you know, I got a full tank of gas on the welder and a lot of wire, so we might be able to just burn that out. But again, if it's bigger than 2 inches, that sounds really weird, but if it's if I have to widen it more than 2 inches, I don't really want to do it. So let's put those spacers in, and then see where we end up. So I'm going to cut back to kind of bolting back on this fender after I've made those spacers, so you can see what I'm talking about, and then fingers crossed those Astros will fit. All right, time to show you what I've got here. So I cut some 2-inch spacers, and then I just put them between the fender and the bed. Obviously, if I was to widen the fender, it would come all the way to the bed there. So the first thing I was concerned about was the step there. To me, that's not even that huge of a deal, the fender being that far past it. But what I do find pretty interesting is that after rolling the lip and putting the 2-inch spacer, I've got a ton of clearance now. Maybe even more than I need. So I'm going to jack up this. You know what? Since I already have those spacers made, I'm going to make a couple more that are only 1.5 inches, put it together, try and lay the truck out and see where we end up. You know, that's kind of where I want to be at. So let's make the 1.5 inch ones. I've got enough material here to trim these ones down and cut a few more. And then, you know, if it's only 1.5 inches or maybe even less, I think we won't be too bad. So let me cut those up, push everything in a little bit. We'll put the truck on the ground and see where we end up. All right, we're back. Astros are back on. And I bet you didn't know that 17 washers makes up 1.5 inches. I decided not to keep cutting this when I had this previously full box of washers. So now I've got the 17 there, 17 there, 17 there, 17 there, and then 17 in the back. I think this is going to work. If I went any closer, I would probably rub in here and here. I think for a straight axle truck where I can't get any camber into it when air is out, this is probably the best I'm going to get. So obviously the next step is to put this thing on the ground and see if it lays out. I think with the 1.5 inches, or even better down there at the running board, it's not really even that noticeable. And that just means a smaller strip we put in, less body work, less, it looks a little bit different, but it will be pretty custom. So, man, I'm not really looking forward to the amount of work I got to do to fix all that once I get into it, especially since I already body worked in there. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. Oh, man, there's going to be some down here, too. So I might even put the strip in a different spot. We'll see. So looking at this, I actually realized that I'm actually going to end up redoing a bunch of bodywork I already did, like in through here. It happens. It happens, and I'm building a patina truck, so I can figure it out. But, you know, I don't think it'll be too bad. Famous last words, as always. The filler dust part of it is going to suck, but, you know, once I knock that all down, we should be able to get in there and weld it and make it wider. But first, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's lay this out and see if it all works out. All right, as you can tell behind me, we are laid out on the Astros. Spacing the fender out 1.5 inches works beautifully. Everything tucks under nicely. Sort of here isn't too bad. I can fill that hole if I need to. There's going to be, you know, a lot of fitting and finessing this before I paint it this time, learning from my mistakes. But I think that that's going to be about the fitment that I can get. It does get close in a couple of other spots, and because I have those Detroit steel wheels on, I don't really want to push my luck too much and suck it in more. I might actually, before I weld this all up, maybe I'll get one of those tires mounted, just so I can make sure that everything fits. But I don't think I really want to go much wider than this. I kind of like where it's sitting, and it looks pretty good. The next thing that I'm going to do is replicate what I've got going on here on the other side, so that we can make sure the bed and everything is happy, it's nice and centered. And then I know that you would love, love, love to see this truck outside by the end of this video. I don't think I'm gonna have time to do that. So if you don't know already, I work on the truck pretty much from 9:30 to about midnight, and I can't start the truck that late, and I definitely can't push it out and push it back in by myself. So you're gonna have to wait for a walk around in the next video. but we will get this thing laid out on Supremes all around, and I'm super stoked for that. So I'll be back probably tomorrow where we'll do the other side. I gotta go buy some bolts. I gotta cut down some more of this material here, and then we'll jam back tomorrow. So catch you in the next cut. All right, another day, and we're back out in the garage, and I have let the intrusive thoughts win and mounted one of my Detroit steel wheels to see how they fit up compared to the Astro Surpremes. So I've got one sitting in there. Don't worry, we'll get a closer look at them in a second. I do not have any spacers between the bed. I just want to make that clear. I do have spacers on the other side. The other side is mounted with 3 bolts that you can see right now because I do want to roll the truck out tomorrow under its own power. And I want to have the Astros at least on one side of the truck, but they're probably going to be on both with it spread out. Anyway, back to the Detroit steel wheels. What I have here are Detroit steel wheel ambassador wheels. These rear ones are 9 inches wide, I believe, with a 4-inch backspace. I think that's pretty correct. And obviously this is aired all the way out. They are 18 inches in diameter, and what I really wanted to see was how close they are to the fender. So currently we have about 1.5 inches sort of all around, and it's pretty consistent up in here as well, and I'm hoping that will work. What I have done though is I've sent 2 of my tires out to get mounted so that I can put them on the front and the rear at a later date and see how everything works out and see if I can actually get these wheels to fit without spacing the fender out. If I can get these wheels to fit without spacing the fender, we'll rock these for a while until I decide what I'm going to ultimately do with this rear end, because if this rear end was narrower, everything would fit, but I really don't want to narrow it right now because I just really don't want to take it apart. If I'm to be completely honest with you guys, I just don't want to take it apart. Everything's bled, everything's set up, the e-brake's all set up, everything works. I just think if I take this truck further apart, it'll kind of kill some of the motivation that I've got going right now. So I'm really going to try and avoid that. That's why in the previous cut we were talking about widening the fenders. I don't have to take anything further apart for that. The fenders have never really fully been on. So I kind of feel like I would feel like I'm moving forward versus moving backwards. But anyway, what I'm going to do today, I've noticed a couple of things that happen when I air out. One being that this e-brake arm hits right here. You can see that it's actually bent it here, and I've marked where I need to cut, and it did actually bend the bedside a little bit. I think I can knock this out once I take the fender off, but obviously I can't kind of have that happening, so I am going to clearance this out a little bit. I'm actually going to mark it out on the other side, on the inside, and I'm going to cut that out, and then what I'm going to do is pop this wheel off, and I want to, in the last video I determined that 1.5 inches works with the Astros. I want to see if I can kind of get that down to maybe 1/2 inch or 1/4, 1/2 inch or 3/4. I know I said, you know, I might as well have a little bit more clearance, blah, blah, blah. Straight axle, it's just going to go up and down. Not going to go side to side too much. So I think I can run things pretty tight. So I'm going to try and get myself down to like a 1/2 inch gap between the fender and the wheel. And to do that, instead of stacking up a bunch of spacers, I bought some PEX pipe. It's kind of the cheapest thing that I could find to use. This was about $4, and I can cut this very easily if I want to make a bunch of different size spacers without stacking a bunch of washers or using the chop saw. It's just going to make my life a lot easier figuring things out. So let's pop this wheel off and then get to putting an Astro back on the truck and sort of moving from there. And then hopefully by the end of this video, I've really figured out how tight I can run the fender. Got the fender back on, got the bedside cut a little bit, and then we can roll this bad boy out. that. I didn't end up using that PEX pipe just because I really wasn't sure if half-inch would work, and the spacers just made it easier. So I'll use that for something else sometime along the way. But basically I've spaced out the fender 1/2 inch now. So you can see that it's a lot tighter here, and almost to the point where I could maybe try and fill that with just like felt or welting or something and make it work, versus having to widen the fender, which would be mint. We are pretty tight though, but I'm a stance guy and that should rock. So let's find out together if this will work out. I will put the camera somewhere where you can see this all work out, and fingers crossed this is done. Okay, so it did manage to air out. The fender kind of moved around as the truck got even to the ground, but we're down now. This is 1/2 inch spaced. You know, it's not too bad. Like, I can run my finger all the way through here without any issues. It does contact a little bit up here, but running board's on the ground, so you know, I think that's pretty good. It tucks like crazy, like you can see here. So I'm gonna try and get a different angle from over there in the garage. As you can see, I got a lot of stuff in the garage right now, but let me move a few things around, then we'll hop over, get another angle, and then we'll call this video a wrap. Okay, so unfortunately this is the best I can do for you right now. Garage is just too full to step away. You're gonna have to wait till the next video to see this thing aired out outside, but you know, I think we're pretty close. And honestly, if I can roll out like this and make a 1/2 inch work, I've got an idea on how I can hide that gap. And we might just be good to sit on these wheels and then figure things out once my Detroit steel wheels come back. So obviously I'm not going to do anything permanent until that happens. But I'm pretty happy with how this looks. So let's just keep her moving. So tomorrow, which is going to be the next video for you guys, sorry, I am going to try and roll this thing out of the garage under its own power, lay it out in the driveway, talk about what we're going to do next, and then back it up and put it back in the garage so we can get to that. So thanks again for watching. Definitely stay tuned to the next video. Should be a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and I'm really hoping to get this thing looking more and more like a truck every single video. I know it's taken me a long time to build this, but hey, it is what it is. So we will see you in the next one.